considering how they are.
Yeah, that's how we open up this episode, guys. Isaac needs a
Yeah.
breather. But in the meantime, welcome back to
Nice.
the Amateur Otaku Podcast. We are talking My Hero Academia Chapter 342. We've been on break. My Hero was off last week, so if you guys were expecting an episode, you still got one because we were breaking down all of the My Hero Academia theories we could find. And if you enjoyed that episode, let us know more theories in the comments section and we can cover those as well. And if you haven't checked it out, we'll just put the link in the description so you guys can go check that out once we're done here. Gentlemen, it's been a couple of weeks. How have you been? Isaac, I'll start with you.
Tired. Why do you think I have this profile pic?
Understandable. Life's been busy over there in Sweden. Leo, how's your week been, buddy?
Dude, good week so far. Just making some content, trying some new things. Made a little guide on how to watch the MCU chronologically. Really fun. I'm like, okay, now I need to go do it. Which is going to be both fun and probably hair pulling. Watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But otherwise, really fun, man. Really, really good.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does a time skip. Did you account for that?
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s like real. The first season is a bit rough, but I really think like season 4 is some of the best MCU content, and the final season's also really great in my opinion. But that's just me. Chronologically, has to be weird though, because those post-credit scenes lead into the next movie, so you're gonna get some spoilers that way.
Hey, we cool with that?
I'm just saying, like, imagine watching Black Widow right after, what is it, Civil War?
Yeah, that's the order it goes.
Yeah, and then you get that post-credit scene. It's just like, wait, what? I'm sorry. But that's fun. That's really fun. Guys, chapter 342 of My Hero Academia. We're going to start talking now. So if you haven't been caught up with the latest chapter in the manga, please leave. If you're an anime only, what are you doing here? We'll see you guys in like November or whatever, whenever season 6 starts. This chapter is titled The Story of How We All Became Here. No, it's not. We actually broke away from that trend. It's The Extreme Quiet Before the Storm. So in this chapter, we go back to UA because in chapter 341, 2 weeks ago, we were mainly focusing on Himiko Toga and Toya Todoroki. Dabi is like really adamant about their quest to destroy their past selves, right? And basically being born anew. And this is the life that both of them are living now. And they have to make sure they're committed to the cause of absolute destruction. And just a reminder for everybody, Toga has twice his blood, and the heroes don't know that she can copy quirks. So this is something that they have not planned for, regardless of what All Might thinks. This is going to be terrifying when that time comes. In this chapter, 342, we open up with like 2 new characters that are working with All for One, and they've infiltrated UA. You really think that they would vet these people a lot more personally. I don't know what you guys thought about that, but it was interesting to see how these guys just like plotting to take down Izuku Midoriya. Meanwhile, the other students are out patrolling and making sure everything's great with the civilians. And they've been so busy that they haven't been able to talk to each other forever. It's really interesting how, like, we see like the bruises and everything on like Kaminari and the scratch marks on Ida's costume. So they got into some sort of scrap outside of UA, and we don't want to spend enough time to actually show it. Like, Leo, do you think we should have focused a little bit on like this side mission where they were out in UA, outside of UA, fighting villains?
Nope.
Fair point.
Nope. I just kind of feel like at this point, it is the calm before the storm. I don't really need to see too much tussling and stuff outside of this. I'm kind of ready. I'm ready, man. Like, I'm ready for what's to come. Especially, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. But man, that final panel, dude.
That final panel.
Ooh, man, freaking All For One got the remote. I'm like, uh-oh.
What's
right.
gonna happen? Who's gonna blow up now?
Shit.
No, okay. So we cut back to the teachers. All Might, Nezu, Tsukuichi are here, and they're telling the students about this super secret plan that we still have no details on. It's a little frustrating, but I just assume it's gonna pay off really well in the long run. Isaac, I have a quick question though. All Might's telling the kids this plan, and where the heck are the third and second years? Where's Class B? Why are we putting all the pressure on this group of 20 kids?
Because protagonist comes. That's why.
It's just really strange to me. You forget how big UA is because we only focus on a handful of students. And it's like, I know All Might said he wants to keep the circle small, but if we're fighting the biggest bad in history, I feel like you kind of want Class B involved. And we know Mirio and Nejire and Sun Eater are out doing their thing. But that's 3 students from the third year class. Where are their classmates? You know, I think we need to start building the army right now. That's just me.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's weird that Class 1B was left out. I mean, like we just saw in the anime how formidable of opponents they actually are against 1A.
It was pretty much a tie until like Deku was just broken, right? That's how they broke the tie in that arc. And it's like, I don't know. I'd include him. Like, you got Kirishima here. Tetsu's just as good as him. So
right. I'm like, come on, man. Like their counterparts are pretty much toe-to-toe with them, if not some a little better, some a little worse. But
you get Mushroom Girl to just put mushrooms in All For One's lungs. Game over.
Game over. How's he gonna beat that?
You can't. Like, that's why she's the scariest person in this entire school, honestly. I'm terrified of this Mushroom Girl. Oh man. But anyway, so we cut back again. We're following other heroes. Endeavor, Genus, and Ragdoll, looking as thick as ever, seem to have the plan written down. They're going over that in another room. Also, Aizawa is meeting with Kurogiri. And if you guys checked out our theories episode, Leo, you mentioned that maybe we can pull Shirakumo out of that Kurogiri shell. You think that might be what is being set up with that panel, or is he just going to try and get intel, like information about the League of Villains?
So I think it looks like maybe there will be a little bit of interrogation to get some intel, because I think to this point, it seems like they're trying to really almost make I think this might be what's happening, but I think that they're making a bit of a dummy plan. And there's a real plan in operation behind all that. And it kind of seems to me like maybe getting some information out of him is going to help with the bigger plan at play. But
it's a trap.
Yeah, like a trap. And then they fall for the trap. And then there's another trap.
They're going full Aaron and Zeke in this one. Can't freaking wait. But yeah, so we find out that they built a new dormitory essentially for the UA students because it's time for them to go. This mission it's starting now, so they have to leave UA. We see a very touching panel of the kids saying their goodbyes. And Isaac, we've been talking about Mama Midoriya. The panel with Deku hugging his mom was so good because they're both known criers. Not a single tear was shed when he hugged her. And then that ended up making me cry. That got me.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said it to you in how should I put it? Spoilers for No Way Home.
Hold on. Let's give adequate spoiler coverage. If you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, just mute this until the spoiler tag goes down because, just making sure you're safe. Don't spoil No Way Home.
Spoilers.
Go ahead, Isaac. Sorry.
Well, I have personally been spoiled about plenty of the No Way Home, and I know for a fact that, well, Aunt May dies, and we all know that Horikoshi likes to take inspiration from Spider-Man. That's kind of obvious by now. And there was a recent comment about him saying that he loved No Way Home, and I'm just sitting there thinking, don't you dare killing Mama Midoriya. Don't you dare.
I think Mama Midoriya is safe for now. We'll keep an eye on that later, obviously, but I'm sure she's safe because the entire that brings us back to what was happening with those civilians we met at the beginning of the chapter, right? You guys should be clear. Spoilers over for No Way Home. So the people at the beginning of the chapter, their goal is to get Deku to leave the UA barrier. Pretty sure because All For One knows it's going to be really hard to get inside. So I feel like there's not going to be anybody inside the UA barrier. It's not going to be in any danger for a while. That might change later, but I feel like everybody's safe in the UA barrier. But speaking of No Way Home, I'm going to just read Horikoshi's quote from this week's Shonen Jump, where he said, quote, I watched Spider-Man. I never thought my favorite movie of all time would change at my age. So he freaking...
Well, guess what? Guess what this means, folks? It means All Might's definitely dead.
You know, All Might doesn't have to be the Tony Stark of this franchise. He can survive it. Fingers crossed. I'm an optimist. Look at my screen name after all. At All Might, it's a reference. I can't let this dude die. But like, the panel was really great because we also see Deku. We see Deku and Eri and Kota in a panel, and that is just awesome that these two finally are together. Deku's children. We're missing the two from Heroes Rising, but they don't live in Japan, thankfully, so they're safe. So we go to this new dormitory. It's a prototype called Troy. Is that thing going to be standing by the time the series ends? Or is that going to get decayed in the imminent future?
Yeah, absolutely not. That was like, wow, what a way to put a nail on that coffin.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends. I do wonder if it's a reference to the Trojan horse, if you get what I mean. Because that won't probably last that long, and we know how long that Trojan horse lasted.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about with a horse?
Haven't you heard the story, the Greek mythologies, Trojan horse?
Trojan horse? Sorry, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
Mike, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about a Trojan horse?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Trojan horse. Okay. Sorry.
my fault.
It's the Trojan War. Yeah, and yeah, I get it. It was a little confusing there, but we got you. We're following. So yeah, fun fact: that war lasted for 10 years, and My Hero Academia is coming up on 10 years fairly soon. I just think that's interesting. This series is supposed to end this year, so it's not going to get to that 10-year milestone, really. But I just think that's funny. Anyway.
That makes the horse theory even more solid in my book.
Hey, excuse me.
Maybe that's...
Nay.
Wow.
So,
or maybe.
We're at UA. The students are beat, and they also acknowledge that this looks exactly identical to where they were before. Probably because Horikoshi didn't want to design a new building, which is just funny. And Isaac, you've been talking about the anime and how much they lay on thick the Deku Uraraka relationship. This chapter was for you, buddy.
I mean, if you don't... It should be quite obvious right now that Horikoshi is pushing. Even how should I put it? my cousins and other friends from Sweden that watch it says the same thing. Horikoshi and the anime studio are not even subtle about it at this point.
Look, we're in the end game now. Subtlety's being thrown out the window. Like Deku, who literally yeets himself out of a window to finally go talk to Uraraka. And
to be fair, dates have never been subtle.
We get a conversation between the two where he finally gets to say thank you for that time she stood up for him in the last volume. Speaking of the last volume, I don't know if you guys saw the images from it. It is gorgeous. He went back and added more double page spreads and everything. It's incredible. Horikoshi, when he has time, is probably the best. For real. That's my opinion on the matter. Weekly, it's a little choppy. But when he has time to like panel it out and lay it out straightforward, chef's kiss. Deku is thanking Uraraka for what she did for him. She's basically like, no sweat. That's what friends are for. Then I can feel the awkwardness in my bones as she pulls a Riverdale and talks about how weird she is. And Deku overcompensates by showering her with compliments in a very awkward way. But basically, this conversation is just leading us back to last chapter. We're talking about Toga, talking about Dabi and Shigaraki.
That's just teenagers in a nutshell. So it fit.
Yeah, it's cute. It's really cute. And the paneling is fantastic on how he framed that conversation. It's probably the best framing for dialogue he's done in a long time. But yeah, so Uraraka is going on about how when she confronted Toga this last time, she can tell that something was off. And it's even challenging Uraraka's entire motive and her thought process of villains are bad and they don't need saving. She's reconsidering that now. Like, how do I understand Himiko Toga? And Deku leans into that saying he knows that Shigaraki needs to be saved. And so in that sense, they both are kind of weird because most heroes probably would just say, throw them in prison and call it a day, not try and save these two. And I like how we set that up with Deku and Uraraka, but also how we cut to Shoto and he, Ida, and Bakugo, plus Kirishima. Kirishima's alive. That's good to know. Are kind of talking about Dabi in that same way, about how hopefully one day he can share a meal with his brother. That's obviously the optimist in Shoto, because this panel, the final panel, is just all for one saying, let's get started. Leo, this was a very quiet chapter. We got a lot of new information, but like there was no action in this chapter. It was a very good setup chapter. But what are your thoughts on it? And where do you think we're gonna go?
Yeah, there's not gonna be no peaceful, quiet, calm meal with Dabi. I just don't think that's in the realm of possibility.
Not at all.
I do think that there's an interesting point here of dualities going on with Deku and Shigaraki, and then also Toga and Uraraka.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's going to be some kind of one-on-one setup here. Uraraka versus Toga, Dabi versus Shoto, and Deku versus Shigaraki. It seems to me that All For One knows what's going on because he had that remote. It's like, oh man, it looks like he knows and has eyes and ears in the place, as alluded to in the beginning of the chapter, where there's civilians clearly up to some sketchy stuff. So I think that, like I said earlier, I think there's a trap set to potentially get them there, and then there's going to be another trap laid out for when they fall for the trap.
Yeah.
I do think that there's going to be a bit of a more morality theme. Well, just like there's going to have to be a choice made between defeating these villains or trying to save them. And I think it's going to come down to the three that I talked about, but Dabi's probably going to be the one for sure that won't be saved. I can see Toga maybe, this would be kind of dark, I could see Toga maybe not wanting to be. And then Shigaraki, Who knows at this point? I mean, he might just be too far gone as well.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be laid out like you said, those 3 ways, right? I feel like Dabi's the one who doesn't want to be saved, and he won't.
Yeah, for sure.
Shigaraki will.
That's an understatement.
I know, right? Again, Captain Obvious over here. Shigaraki is the one that wants to be saved, but ultimately he's too far gone, and he probably would have to sacrifice himself and die to help them take down All for One. And Toga is the one that's actually could be redeemed because she's done the less amount of damage. There are times where Dabi just killed like 20 people in an instant. I don't have a memory of Toga committing murder, so I don't know how far she is. So I feel like she could probably be pulled back to the light a little easier than the other 2, especially All for One having like his clutches into Shigaraki so deeply.
Spinner question mark?
And nobody cares about Spinner.
I'm like, okay, is Spinner gonna match up against Bakugo and just get demolished?
He's just gonna get destroyed.
I was more thinking about the whole redemption thing, and we are.
Has Spinner done anything that even makes him a villain? He's just kind of standing there all the time.
I don't know, man. I think we could potentially see Spinner unlock a quirk or like unlock, his quirk evolution, and maybe it could be something like way more destructive than we thought.
I would let's not forget All for One's power. He can just give Spinner a new quirk at any point in time. Like, that's still a thing he can do. It would have been crazy if he, when he had to get rid of New Order, he gave it to Spinner. That would have been wild. That Spinner all of a sudden becomes the most overpowered character in the entire franchise.
That'd be something unexpected and kind of funny that I would love. What if he just morphs into this giant dragon?
Mm-hmm. Because didn't he give he gave Lady Nagant a quirk, right? She already had her gun quirk, but he gave her some float ability that let her fly and move really fast. So it's been done before. Yeah. What are you saying, Isaac?
So Leo, you suggest that All for One would essentially make him Wizard Godzilla, so to speak.
I mean, potentially.
Somebody needs to fight Godzilla. He's their trump card, right?
Yeah, where is she? Where is he? I mean, Heroes Rising. Not Heroes Rising. Two Heroes is canon.
So yeah, everybody in Two Heroes, they're from across the world, so he probably doesn't even live anywhere nearby. But I'm just saying, imagine if you flew him in and he just stomped on everybody and called it a day.
He just stomps on Shigaraki and it's like, all right, we're done.
Yep. Yeah, but Isaac, I want your thoughts on this. This is Horikoshi's not being subtle whatsoever with this chapter being called The Extreme Quiet Before the Storm. How soon do you think we see the storm? Is that next chapter? Is that 2 chapters from now? And is it because the heroes make a play, or is it because All for One still is in control here? He makes the first move.
I can see 1 chapter or so left before, maybe 2 before the storm kicks in. Mm-hmm. It all depends on how you want to do it, because if you want to go from some less perspective for the villains, or do you want to get some other perspective from some other heroes? Maybe, let's say, go have Razorhead a talk with his former friend. Have that for a chapter. I mean, it all depends on how it's all structured. So I can safely say that I could easily see 2 chapters at least being.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, you were talking about depends on how it's structured. It's really interesting because we've been reviewing all these chapters and Lady Nagant, Star and Stripe, how kind of frustrating some of those moments were, even though on the whole we enjoyed it. for me, these last 2 chapters have been really good as far as how the pacing's going, right? We spent an entire chapter with the villains. Now we cut back and show that duality between them and the heroes. And so next chapter, I feel like we got to get Tomura in here, right? I feel like we need to focus on what is Tomura Shigaraki doing? Because we know he's being taken over, but yeah,
go on.
No, it's like we know he's being like consumed by All For One, but what do you think? Like, where is his mindset?
Honestly, that's one of the things that they should focus on a little more before the whole shitstorm comes along. And honestly, this is sort of like a sidetrack, but I have to say, when he draws All For One or focusing on the villains, sometimes it makes me wonder how Horikoshi would do a horror anime, as a horror manga after My Hero Academia. Honestly.
Yeah, so My Hero, which was the predecessor to My Hero Academia, was absurdly dark. So it's in his wheelhouse. My Hero was a very dark book. We probably should cover that before this series is over, because I think it was like a one-shot.
Wait,
My Hero, yes.
Did it actually got printed?
What book?
The book it's Horikoshi's book called My Hero, I believe the title is. There's no academia on it. It's absurdly dark and weird, and I really think we should cover it one day, maybe another day where it's an off week and there's no chapter. But it's weird, and yeah, it's dark. And so that's where you can kind of see that seeping in with the My Villain Academia arc, for example, or whenever we focus back to the villains, you see that dark nature kind of creeping back in. And My Hero Academia is so funny because it's absurdly optimistic and bright and colorful and lighthearted. And then all of a sudden, it's like Horikoshi got everybody hooked in with that, and then started seeding in those darker themes that he's comfortable with. And now we are at the point in the story where it's a mix of both. So Isaac, I totally can see him doing a horror style manga at some point if he's up for it.
I just gotta say that My Hero, that Deku equivalent, that dude got a huge head.
Yeah, that was the basis for Izuku Midoriya. It is so interesting. I really think we should cover it one day if we can get our hands on it, just to be like, yeah, that's where these ideas came from.
So My Hero's predecessor was something way dark. Oda's editor had to fight to get One Piece serialized after his one shot. Yes, it's sort of like a sidetrack, and yes, the publishers was uncertain if One Piece would be a hit or not before they finally got convinced about it. They didn't believe it at first, except for one editor. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, One Piece is one of a kind. It's just nothing compares to One Piece. It's in a league of its own. But yeah, so like Leo, we were talking about getting focus on Tomura Shigaraki before whatever comes next, because our dude has been missing, essentially, right? All For One is in control of him. Like, do you think we should spend a little time like going into Tomura's psyche before whatever happens next happens, or should we just get right into it? Shigaraki doesn't matter. We got to fight All For One.
Yeah, I definitely think we should take a brief moment to visit what's going on with Shigaraki, because it seems to me that he's caught in the mindset of, in his opinion and the opinion of his followers, he is the hero. So I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, of like this I'm the hero of my own world philosophy that's going on here. And is that quite on track with what All For One wanted for him, or is that going to result in him potentially killing All For One and taking us into his own hands?
But also, how, like, since they're both inhabiting the same body, how much of that is Shigaraki and how much of that is All for One? Like,
Yes.
I can't even tell who's talking at certain points.
Seriously, it's like whose philosophy, who kind of has the what's the word? I mean, it's it's a classic trope of taking over a body. We've seen it in plenty of anime, Naruto included. It's like, who is the main host here of the body? Is it Shigaraki? Is it a blend of the two, or is it All for One? And I theorize that it is Shigaraki. And that it's just gonna kind of be like just like Sasuke. Thanks for the power. All right, you're dead. But maybe not. I don't know. I think that's where it's headed, though. That Shigaraki, in his mind, his philosophy is that this is what a hero should do for his people.
Can you imagine if this series ends like Naruto and like All for One's just vibing with everybody at the end of the series, like in the background? It's like, get out of here. That pissed me off so much that Orochimaru was just living in the Leaf Village with everybody else. It's
just
like,
hanging
really?
out. Nobody gives a shit.
Sorry I killed the Hokage. I apologize for that. Oh, God, that pissed me off.
He should have
so
been in
much.
the jail cell. They know good and damn well.
It was especially since it was played off for laughs. That was like, really? Okay, sure.
Maybe he didn't get in jail because they know fully well that he would just get out of there quite easily. Honestly, he should be punished. I do agree, but I do wonder if that's the reasoning for it.
You cut his arms off again. That was the original plan, right?
Yeah.
We need to just review Naruto and get it all out our system at once. But
and we
always
also
relevant.
need to cover One Piece, but we don't know how.
If you can figure out how to watch One Piece for me, I will do it, because I am not watching 1,000 episodes. If you could trim that down to like 300, that'd be great. I
don't even know about 300.
I say read the manga. I honestly say read the manga instead, because the reading it goes faster than the watching the anime. And this is a legit suggestion.
I'll chip away at it one day, maybe. Just read a chapter a week and just know that I'm never going to catch up. Yeah. But yeah, guys, this was a really good chapter. And just going back to Deku Uraraka, I think it's really interesting how Horikoshi seems to forget information he tells us. Like, how weird both of those two are, because they think this way, not like the entire class has the exact same mindset from like 2 chapters ago. So that was kind of funny to me. But also, Isaac, just to reiterate, you were talking about him not being subtle. I love how their relationship, like that conversation was not flirtatious at all. It was them talking about how they feel about what's relevant to this story. And if any romance happens after this war is over, cool. But I really appreciate that it was just 2 characters having a real conversation about what they're going to do next.
Honestly, that type of conversation is the best type of bonding conversation, even in slice of life stories, quite frankly.
So, guys, do you have anything else you wanted to discuss with 342?
Yeah, I don't think the storm's the next chapter.
Yeah.
I think we have one more quote unquote calm before the storm, and it's visiting the villains. And then maybe we'll get to, I just don't think it's the next chapter. Like, the war ain't gonna happen next chapter. And if it does, hey, I'm wrong, but I don't think it's the very next chapter. I do wonder if we're gonna lose somebody major, man. Like, and we're saying Bakugo, yeah, I figure that's kind of a easy one, but I don't know, man. I think one of these other UA classmates could end up on the chopping block.
So here's the problem with that, right? Like, just give me a sec, Isaac. Here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
We have been following the villains, and then we kind of like honed in the core UA kids that we've been following with Shoto, Deku, Bakugo, Uraraka. That's like the main core. If you kill Asui, for example, is that even a major death at this point? Because she's barely a supporting character for like the last 2 years of this manga.
Yeesh.
Yeah. Which is why I
Man,
think,
that would hurt my chest if they went and killed her. But yeah, I guess like I don't want
Yeah.
none of them to die. This isn't me
Honest-
saying I could see. Okay, honestly, I could see Kirishima potentially going. Maybe you get rid of another side-ish character like Earphone Jack or what Kaminari. But I feel like the ones that are like definitely safe, Deku, Uraraka. I think Ida's probably safe. But other than those three, man, Shoto, other than that list, I think everybody else is in question here.
I swear, if he kills off Bakugo, I would mute every form of My Hero Academia wording
I think Bakugo's
on
definitely
Twitter.
gone. I think Bakugo's definitely out.
Okay, preparing to mute anything My Hero Academia related. Be right back.
Oh, Isaac said I ain't dealing with that shit.
Oh man, I feel like I'm of the mindset still that I don't know if Horikoshi has the guts to kill any of these kids off. The pro heroes might die a little, some of them might die, but I don't know if anybody in Deku's class is really gonna die. Personally, killing kids is hard. Like Naruto didn't kill any of their students until they all became adults. So
yeah, good point.
Tell that to
Endeavor
Attack on
dead.
Titan.
Ha, that's a very different show, my dude.
Still,
Attack on Titan is a different animal, all on its own.
Still.
But yeah, so going back to you, Isaac, what do you think that it would even be a major deal if we killed Sugar Man? Like, that's what I'm saying. A lot of them don't get a lot of screen time anyway.
No, if they kill off one of their classmates, is going to be one of the major ones, and I do believe it could be Bakugo. Honestly,
Rest in peace,
think,
Rosa.
I will even go so
No,
far as
let's
to
not
say
do that.
50-50.
No.
50-50.
I will
That's
even go so far
pretty big odds.
Yeah,
You know,
I know, but I'm gonna go so far as saying 50-50.
I am writing that down in my little notepad here. Isaac says there's a 50% chance that Bakugo dies. Yo, you said you think Bakugo dies. What are the odds of that? Like, are you going 50-50 hard like Isaac?
80-20. Because I think that
dang.
they kind of correlate. Yeah, well, I think this kind of correlates with the first and second users.
Good point.
Yeah, I kind of think that there's this duality going on between all four of these characters. I think it's kind of a reversal role. Like the first user probably saved the second user, and it's going to be the opposite this time.
I'm just gonna
Not to
start every
mention-
time we have a theory. I'm gonna write it down and date it. Just
And think about it this way: Bakugo was the one born with the quirk. He was the one that came up as the talented student. He was the one that Deku always looked up to. It would kind of make sense storytelling wise if he's the one that saved Deku and gave his life, the one that had the power at first, the one that was the one, he was the one at first. Like, I mean, if you look at it statistically, he had the quirk. So it's like, okay, if the kid that was looked up to is the one to give his life for the one that is willing to give his life for anybody else, I think it kind of makes sense. But I mean, hey, like maybe they will let our boy Bakugo survive. I will be heartbroken, but I think he is like a major death incoming.
like, I just love his development too, though. Like, even in this chapter of him, like, he's just hanging out with Ida and Shoto. He's not being forced to. He's just there having a conversation with the two, and like even remarking about Shoto's favorite food being soba and udon, and it's like he's perceptive of what Shoto likes and made a remark about it. It's just like Bakugo has come so far from the beginning of the series up until this point. I can see one, he's reached his max stats, right? His character development has run out. It's time for him to go. But two, if we're at the end of the series, does it matter? So if we're not going to do anything else with the story anyway, he can just ride off into the sunset.
I will also add this when it comes to Bakugo dying. Well, if there's anyone that would just, fuck you, I'm taking you with me kind of mentality, it's Bakugo of all the classmates. Let's face it. I mean, just look at
in one of these movies that I won't spoil.
Yeah, exactly. So everything. I also would. I will change the percent after what Leah points out. I will go so far and say 80-20 for the 80 being that he is getting axed. I will change it honestly.
Okay.
Good thing you guys aren't putting money on this. I am going to say there is a 25% chance that Bakugo dies. I don't see it happening at all. Honestly.
At all? You think he gonna? Okay.
Like again, if we were talking about All Might, I get it. I get where you guys are coming from. He's just too. It's like killing Sasuke. He's too popular of a character. He's like the second lead of this franchise.
I mean, well, fucking spoiler. Neji bit the dust.
Neji ain't Bakugo.
Yeah, that's true. That would be like Kirishima.
Yeah, it'd be like Kirishima. It might be Kaminari, honestly, with Neji. No offense, but like, it wasn't like Rock Lee died.
Whoa!
He's not Rock Lee.
I would argue.
Come on.
I would argue that Horikoshi feels a bit more bold than what's Naruto's creator name again. I can't recall.
Kishimoto.
Horikoshi feels like a much more daring mangaka than him. So I wouldn't say that it's impossible, so to speak.
Yeah, that's why I said 25%. There's a chance. I don't think it's likely, but there is a chance. What I've learned from this last year of covering My Hero Academia on a weekly basis with you guys is that we come up with some awesome ideas, and it usually is never that. It's usually the most simple answer ever. Like, I'm still pissed that our way to beat Star and Stripe was she didn't know his name. Like, it's so obvious that would be the way to beat her, but it's also like, come on, guys, that was very ordinary.
I hate to use this language, but that was pretty dog shit.
I don't think I'll ever get over that.
Hey.
Even when the anime rolls around and gets to that moment, I'm just like, God, I hate that so much.
Leah, if you only knew how foul-mouthed I can be with recordings with Brandon, depending on the subject we are covering. Don't worry about being foul-mouthed here.
But yeah, okay. YouTube, don't come after us. We want to make sure we still, you still push the videos out. This is somewhat family-friendly content. Anyway. I'm not gonna go into all of that.
Say that to people when we upload the Sword Art Online episodes.
You have been teasing that episode for like 3 weeks now. When you gonna hit upload on it, Isaac?
As soon as the video program works.
Guys, anything else we needed to discuss before we wrap this week up?
No, I think we've got some really good predictions going on here. I just have one more. All Might, 95% dead.
That's high.
100.
Okay.
I mean, Mike, you don't think he gonna die? Like, are you sitting over there thinking All Might gonna make it?
I mean, I'd still say like there's a 60% chance that he dies, but I'm still of the mindset of in that Night Eye arc where Deku says he's going to change the future so All Might won't die. Do you renege on that? Like, that was the entire point of Deku can now, the future's in his hands, right? It's in our own hands. We can change the outcome. All Might doesn't have to die. It'd be kind of weird if it's just like, yeah, All Might still died, because the issue is that Night Eye said All Might dies within like the next year or so. And by us not having a time skip, we're still in that window, which means Night Eye's prediction would be true, which means that entire arc was pointless in a sense. So if All Might dies, it would have been maybe a time skip and All Might dies. But since we didn't do a time skip, I'm leaning on it's unlikely, but that's just me. Narratively, it would be very underwhelming to kind of like throw that under the rug.
Maybe.
I mean, I think you could change, because remember he said it was like a didn't Night Eye say it was a horrifying death?
Yeah, he said he's gonna die a horribly gruesome death.
So I think you could change the horribly gruesome to be like a more peaceful, like I finally saw Deku fulfill the prophecy. Now I can die in peace.
I guess, but also let's not forget the conversation Aizawa and All Might had where Eraserhead's like, don't hate yourself for living, and that like changes All Might's outlook on life. Again, unless we do a time skip to make that viable, All Might is only like 60. He doesn't have to die. Even giving him a peaceful death, he doesn't have to bite it anytime soon.
He's that old? I thought All Might was like 45, 50 at most.
I think Endeavor's closer to 50, and All Might is probably has him for like 4 or 5 years. So All Might might be like 55. Might not be 60, but he's in that age range.
Huh. I thought it was younger, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a hero for like 20-something years.
I mean, 20. He was a hero since he was like 17.
Yeah, but I think when people say he's probably been a hero way longer, but when they say that, it's probably like he's been number one for 20 years. So he probably had to climb up the ladder a little bit.
23, 24 when he became number one, probably.
Yeah. Not everybody can be Hawks.
Yeah, where is he at, man? I feel like we ain't seen him in a minute.
He was in this chapter, isn't he, with Ragdoll and Endeavor and Best Jeanist, I think. Pretty sure.
Is that him with the goggles?
Yep.
Never mind.
Isaac, anything else, buddy?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, and if and when All Might dies, I have this written down so you guys can gloat about how you called it. So, yeah, dated. Guys, we are going to be covering Attack on Titan, the final season. By the time you're listening to this, that episode's already up. So check that out. We're covering this week's episode, and we do live streams for Attack on Titan every Sunday night at 7 Eastern, I believe. So make sure you guys check those out if you're watching Attack on Titan, the final season. Isaac, you guys got anything else coming up here at the Amateur Otaku?
Well, we are covering the Demon Slayer second season, and it's like I need to ask. Oh, sure, I know the budget now, but they sure use every bit of money in each episode. Jeebus Christ, that animation is just movie quality for each episode. And next week, considering this is February and it's close to Valentine's Day, we decided that considering Valentine's Day is on 14th, we will record it next week instead because of the schedule and all, and cover a nice little slice of life series called Horimiya, which is one of them, and I can finally announce it. Next week is our glorious Nini Resurrection commentary track. Boy, am I looking forward to that.
What resurrection?
Super Saiyan Jesus the Dragon.
Oh yeah.
God help us all. Jeez. Oh man. Leo, what's happening over at Geekly Goods, buddy?
So coming up this week, we got some Oscar predictions, y'all. The nominations will be released on Tuesday, so I'll be doing a live reaction of that bright and early in the morning, 5 a.m. PT. Yeah, I'm so excited. Also, potentially a review for Kimmy, and definitely a review for the Boba Fett finale and reaction for that, and some Superman and Lois reactions that I have been behind on, but those will be dropping on the channel as well this week, as long as a couple other little hidden gems. So come on through, y'all. Geekly Goods on YouTube and check it out.
Ooh, we eating good this week, man. Superman and Lois is so good. So good.
And I mean, so good, dude.
If you haven't watched it, guys, if you're reading My Hero Academia, go watch Superman and Lois. It's such a great show.
So good. So good.
But yeah, you got a lot of stuff coming up this week, man. Make sure you have your coffee ready because that is bright and early.
Yes, sir. Be shaking that iced coffee, ready to go.
Crazy. For me, guys, Not a Cinephile on YouTube. Fully Coolly Progressive is this week. Have a few other things in the works that you'll be seeing in the next couple weeks that I cannot mention just yet. But in April, there's a big thing coming, so stay tuned for that over at Novice Cinephile and on YouTube. We guys will catch you later. Thank you guys for joining us for My Hero Academia. There's a new chapter next week, so we will be back next week to discuss that one as well. Have it awesome. Go beyond. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.